The end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. It is written that pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. It is the pride and haughty spirit that fights against the Spirit of Yah, which attempts to humble us. We are often confused about this, as it is not normally a good situation, and we typically assign all unpleasurable situations to the accuser of our brethren and not our Maker. But it is the Father Yah that will be near unto them that are of a broken heart, and save such as be of a contrite spirit. The broken heart becomes moldable, while the proud and stubborn heart maintains their own way until the day of destruction. As it is written, better is a wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished or corrected. Let's begin today in 2 Chronicles chapter 32. 2 Chronicles chapter 32, and the title of today's sermon is Being Humble Before Yah. Being humble before Yah, and we're going to begin in 2 Chronicles chapter 32, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
After these things, and the establishment thereof, Sennacherib king of Assyria came, and entered into Yehudah, and encamped against the fenced cities, and thought to win them for himself. And when Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib was come, and that he was purposed to fight against Jerusalem, he took counsel with his princes and his mighty men to stop the waters of the fountains which were without the city, and they did help him. So there was gathered much people together, who stopped all the fountains and the brook that ran through the midst of the land, saying, Why should the kings of Assyria come and find much water? Also he strengthened himself, and built up all the wall that was broken, and raised it up to the towers, and another wall without, and repaired Millo in the city of Dawid, and made darts and shields in abundance. And he set captains of war over the people, and gathered them together to him in the street of the gate of the city, and spake comfortably to them, saying, Be strong and courageous. Be not afraid nor dismayed for the king of Assyria, nor for all the multitude that is with him, for there be more with us than with him. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is Yahweh, our Elohim, to help us.
All right. So, but with this physically, it may be more with them. All right. Physically, as it appears, it looked like that the children of Israel are outnumbered, because we don't see the angels of Yahweh that are there to fight our battles with us and for us. But if we do things to drive that angel away, from the beginning, these are the things that we were told. This is why Moses was instructed, be careful what you do. There's an angel that leads you in the way to do all of these things. If you provoke him, he will not pardon your transgression. He is the reason why you're being protected. You do things that drive the spirit away, and whatever thing that is we do, now we don't have the protection that we once had. This is why the children of Israel during the time of Joshua were able to subdue everything and then go up against a little town and get smacked up. Because the angel of Yahweh step away from you. You do something to drive the spirit away, all of a sudden everything within that situation changes. Now the stuff that you were able to do easily, now you can't accomplish that anymore. And what we will do is look at the physical things that are surrounding us and not pay attention that you've driven the spirit away. This is why we have to maintain a certain order. And it doesn't matter how people feel about it, what they like, what they don't like. When you drive the spirit away, you are then on your own. And that ain't where you want to be. Especially when you talk about all of the great trials and tribulations that we're going to have to go through to get our land back. It's not going to be what we can physically accomplish with our own hand. Go ahead.
And to fight our battles. And the people rested themselves upon the words of Hezekiah, king of Yehudah. Verse 9. After this did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, send his servants to Jerusalem, but he himself laid siege against Lachish, and all his power with him, unto Hezekiah, king of Yehudah, and unto all Yehudah that were at Jerusalem, saying, Thus says Sennacherib, king of Assyria, whereon do you trust, that you abide in the siege in Jerusalem? Does not Hezekiah persuade you to give over yourselves to die by famine and by thirst, saying, Yahweh our Elohim shall deliver us out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Has not the same Hezekiah taken away his high places and his altars, and commanded Yehudah and Jerusalem, saying, You shall worship before one altar, and burn incense upon it? Know you not what I and my fathers have done unto all the people of other lands? Were the gods of those nations of those lands anyways able to deliver their lands out of mine hand? Who was there among all the gods of those nations that my fathers utterly destroyed, that could deliver his people out of mine hand, that your God, your Elohim, should be able to deliver you out of my hand? Now therefore let not Hezekiah deceive you, nor persuade you on this manner. Neither yet believe him, for no God of any nation or kingdom was able to deliver his people out of mine hand, and out of the hand of my fathers. How much less shall your Elohim deliver you out of mine hand? And his servant spake yet more against Yahweh Elohim, and against his servant Hezekiah. He wrote also letters to rail on Yahweh Elohim of Israel, and to speak against him, saying, As the gods of the nations of other lands have not delivered their people out of mine hand, so shall not the Elohim of Hezekiah deliver his people out of mine hand. Then they cried with a loud voice in the Yehudi speech unto the people of Jerusalem that were on the wall, to affright them and to trouble them, that they might take the city. And they spake against the Elohim of Jerusalem, as against the gods of the people of the earth, which were the work of the hands of man. And for this cause Hezekiah the king and the prophet Esaias the son of Amoz prayed and cried to heaven. And Yahweh sent an angel, which cut off all the mighty men of valor.
Okay, and verse 20, and for this cause Hezekiah the king and the prophet Isaiah the son of Amoz prayed and cried to heaven. Then Yahweh sent an angel which cut off all the mighty men of valor. The last thing we want to do, and it's real easy as a king to get full of pride because of the things that you've been able to do physically, or as it appears physically, because the God of Israel is behind you and the Spirit is helping you. So they did not get beside themselves in seeing this. For this cause, they prayed and cried unto heaven about this destruction and this army that's headed their way. Go ahead.
And the leaders and captains in the camp of the king of Assyria. So he returned with shame of face to his own land. And when he was come into the house of his God, they that came forth of his own bowels slew him there with the sword. Thus Yahweh saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib the king of Assyria, and from the hand of all other, and guided them on every side. And many brought gifts unto Yahweh to Jerusalem, and presents to Hezekiah king of Yehudah, so that he was magnified in the sight of all nations from thenceforth.
Right, being standing in that stead of leading Yahweh's people, then he received all of those gifts for the things that Yahweh had done himself. Go ahead.
In those days Hezekiah was sick to death, and prayed unto Yahweh, and he spake unto him, and he gave him a sign. But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him.
Right. Now this is why I tell people I'm real careful about when people tell me them or their family members, or they have some issues and they want you to pray for them. This is a servant of Yahweh. Now, he's been able to do some great things, all right? But look at the situation. In those days, Hezekiah was sick to death and prayed unto Yahweh, and he spake unto him, and he gave him a sign. But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him, for his heart was lifted up. Nothing lifts up your heart more than success. And the longer we're able to do whatever it is we're doing, it gives us the belief that Yahweh must be with us, that everything is going the way that it's supposed to go. And the whole time, this is Yahweh doing this, but his heart got lifted up. So you go and somebody tells you that somebody has an issue, you pray for that person, Yahweh heal that person. But then they decide they're not going to thank Yahweh, they're going to thank Jesus. Now, how you think you help that person? Because now the punishment that's finna come from Yahweh is going to be worse than the problem that they had before you prayed for them. So whether you think you helping them or not, you ain't doing them but getting them in more trouble. Because they mouth ain't going to say, oh, thank you, Yahweh. Praise the Most High Elohim of Abraham, Esaac, and Jacob. That ain't what they going to say. They going to say, thank you, Jesus. And then when he come visit them, what you going to do? So you got to take what responsibility you got in that. You know good well they're not going to thank Yahweh. So why you going to put your God out there like that? And why you going to put them in a situation to receive double rebuke? See, when it happened to you, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Then you'll learn to keep your mouth closed and let them people say, look, if you need physical help, you're tired flat, call me. But when you want to talk about praying to God, now you pray to your God and I'm going to pray to mine. When you see somebody end up worse after you pray for them, that's when you'll learn to keep your mouth closed. Go ahead.
For his heart was lifted up. Therefore there was anger upon him and upon Yehudah and Jerusalem. 2 Chronicles chapter 32 and verse 26. Notwithstanding, Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the anger of Yahweh came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah.
So we start seeing a pattern here. If you want to stop the wrath of Yahweh, then there has to be some humbling on your part that will cause those things to back up. Because Yahweh will repent. Yahweh will set forth anger and righteous judgment. But if you step back from those things and humble yourself, then Yahweh will repent of the decision that he made to destroy all of the stuff and the work of your hands. Go ahead.
And Hezekiah had exceeding much riches and honor, and he made himself treasuries for silver and for gold, and for precious stones, and for spices, and for shields, and for all manner of pleasant jewels. storehouses also for the increase of corn and wine and oil, and stalls for all manner of beasts, and coats for flocks. Moreover, he provided him cities and possessions of flocks and herds in abundance, for Elohim had given him substance very much. This same Hezekiah also stopped the upper watercourse of Gihon, and brought it straight down to the west side of the city of David, and Hezekiah prospered in all his works. Howbeit, in the business of the ambassadors of the princes of Babylon, who sent unto him to inquire of the wonder that was done in the land, Elohim left him to try him, that he might know all that was in his heart.
And these are things that we're going to have to consider. That there's certain things that Yahweh leave around you to test and to prove what's in your heart. Because a lot of us, and it's just in us to just believe that, you know, our hearts are pure. And it is written in this book, the heart is wicked and deceptive above all things. Who can know it? And we just think we have the purest of intentions, and we think we have the purest of hearts. And Yahweh say, you know what, I'm going to leave something right here. I'm going to see if you're going to test and to prove you, to see if your heart. See, there's a lot of people that wouldn't steal nothing, but you leave out $100 and leave it on the table, they keep walking by. Wow, look at that. Wow, now they already shopping in their mind. They were like, you know, you remember that blue shirt? You remember that blue shirt? Now they wasn't going to steal the $100, right? But because the $100 is sitting out there, that $100 talking to them now. Right. Yahweh leaves stuff out there to prove you. Yahweh told them people, leave that $100 right there. Leave that $100 right there. You don't even need $100. But you saw it. And they start talking to you. Look, ain't nobody going. Then first thing you start doing, start looking around. Ain't nobody around here. You know, you throw something down there and just put it in there. Okay, right. And the God of Israel set you up. Because he left that there to prove your heart, to see what you were going to do. That's why they had them little shows where they'll leave the key in the car. Brother walking down the street, wasn't even thinking about stealing no car. See the car running, jump in the car. Come to figure out it was a setup. Now you can't get out the car. They done locked the doors. Poor brother can't get out. He wasn't thinking about stealing. But you have to consider. He says, I'm going to leave things there to prove you, to see whether or not you're going to serve me or not. Go ahead.
Verse 32. Now the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and his goodness, behold, they are written in the vision of Esaias, the prophet, the son of Amos, and in the book of the kings of Yehuda and Yisrael. And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the chiefest of the sepulchres of the sons of David. And all Yehuda and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did him honor at his death. And Manasseh his son reigned in his stead.
All right, so then as we start going through these kings, see, one of the things that we have to deal with is that our people have been ruled over for many, many generations by people other than the children of Israel. And it is important that we go through and learn what things were pleasing unto Yahweh and what things got us into deep trouble. Because when it comes down to it, everybody is ready to be restored as a kingdom. Everybody's ready to be all of these things. But then that question then arises, how are we going to rule? What is going to be your direction? Keep going, bro.
Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, but did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom Yahweh had cast out before the children of Israel. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down.
So he built again the high places which his father had broken down. So then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, if your father had broken these things down, and it has gone well for Israel, but because we want to assimilate with other cultures, we want to do and be accepted amongst other lands, now we want to do the things that will cause us to get worldwide acceptance. See, it ain't enough to be accepted in our hood. No. We want to be accepted in 4-5 hoods down the road, see? So now we got to do some other things to be accepted. Go ahead.
You know, brother, the question also comes to mind. He's at age 12. What has been instilled in him? Do we get so busy running our businesses, doing what we doing, that we forget to raise our children up in the way that they should go?
Now, you know what? I was asking myself the same question, but wait as we keep reading and see what you run into. Now he 12, right?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
And he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshipped all the house of heaven, and served them. Also he built altars in the house of Yahweh, whereof Yahweh had said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever.
So, even with that question you asked, what has been instilled in him, right? Well, how the hell he know to worship the false gods then? Because if his daddy done removed them, where he get that from? Right. Go ahead.
And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of Yahweh. And he caused his children to pass through the fire into the valley of the son of Hinnom. Also he observed times, and used enchantments, and used witchcraft, and dealt with a familiar spirit, and with wizards. He wrought much evil in the sight of Yahweh to provoke him to anger.
Right. He got all of these things from the other nations. I mean, it was who was that? President Reagan, who openly would talk to his little witch before he made decisions. Everybody knew his witch. He didn't even hire his little witch. See, these are the things that the nations do. And he picked this up early. Go ahead.
And he set a carved image, the idol which he had made in the house of Elohim, of which Elohim had said to David and to Shlomo his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen before all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever.
Okay, pause. And he set a carved image, the idol which he had made in the house of Elohim, where Yahweh has chosen to place his name there. He then puts a carved image there. Now, these are our rulers now. See, these are the things that encourage us to go and do foul things when our leaders do foul things and then nothing happens to them, or they actually progress as they do the foul things. Go ahead.
Verse 8, neither will any more remove the foot of Israel from out of the land which I have appointed for your fathers, so that they will take heed to do all that I have commanded them, according to the whole law and the statutes and the ordinances by the hand of Moshe. So Manasseh made Yehuda and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err, and to do worse than the heathen, whom Yahweh had destroyed before the children of Israel.
You see that? Manasseh made Yehuda and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err and to do worse than the heathen. See, when we do wrong better than the other people who showed us how to do wrong. We're going to do wrong flamboyantly. We teach other people how to do wrong, and it was their wrong. It wasn't even ours. Go ahead.
2 Chronicles chapter 33 and verse 10. And Yahweh spake to Manasseh and to his people, but they would not hearken. Wherefore Yahweh brought upon them the captains of the host of the king of Assyria, which took Manasseh among the thorns, and bound him with fetters, and carried him to Babylon. And when he was in affliction, he besought Yahweh his Elohim, and humbled himself greatly before the Elohim of his fathers. And he prayed unto him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him again to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that Yahweh, he was Elohim. Now after this he built a wall without the city of David, on the west side of Gihon, in the valley, even to the entering in at the fish gate, and compassed about Ophel, and raised it up a very great height, and put captains of war in all the fenced cities of Yehuda. And he took away the strange gods and the idol out of the house of Yahweh, and all the altars that he had built in the mount of the house of Yahweh, and in Jerusalem, and cast them out of the city. And he repaired the altar of Yahweh, and sacrificed thereon peace offerings and thank offerings, and commanded Yehuda to serve Yahweh Elohim of Israel. Nevertheless, the people did sacrifice still in the high places, yet unto Yahweh their Elohim only. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and his prayer unto his Elohim, and the words of the seers that spake to him in the name of Yahweh Elohim of Israel, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel. His prayer also, and how Elohim was entreated of him, and all his sin, and his trespass, and the places wherein he built high places, and set up groves and graven images, before he was humbled. Behold, They are written among the sayings of the seers. So Manasseh slept with his fathers, and they buried him in his own house, and Amon his son reigned in his stead.
So it is actually, and it's one of the things that we try our best to either separate or hide from our children is the wrongs or the things that we might have committed. But it might do your children some serious worth to see the things that you might have done in error, to see you repent and humble yourself and see the way that your life was turned around afterward. Go ahead.
Verse 21. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. But he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, as did Manasseh his father. But Amon sacrificed unto all the carved images which Manasseh his father had made, and served them, and humbled not himself before Yahweh, as Manasseh his father had humbled himself. But Amon trespassed more and more. And his servants conspired against him, and slew him in his own house. But the people of the land slew all that had conspired against King Amon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years.
8 years old. All right. Now he's, consider the foulness of things that has been seen. Go ahead.
And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Elohim of David his father. And in the 12th year he began to purge Yehudah and Jerusalem from the high places, and the groves, and the carved images, and the molten images.
Right. So here it is. We're talking about a young man starts young, but then automatically starts to go, and you notice the ones that do the things that they're supposed to do. It says, and they did the things of David their father. And then when you deal with who the Mashiach was, he was then called the son of David. So those who are following in that spiritual path, those are the sons of David. Those other ones are just fleshly sons. So while everybody trying to figure out what tribe they from and trying to figure out their lineage, if you don't walk in the spirit, you ain't none of Israel anyway. Go ahead.
2 Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 4. And they break down the altars of Baalim in his presence, and the images that were on the high above them he cut down, and the groves, and the carved images, and the molten images he brake in pieces, and made dust of them, and strawed it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Yehudah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh and Ephraim and Simeon, even unto Naphtali, with their matocks round about. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images into powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem.
When you talk about removing the groves, it was a problem then with Israel, and it's still a problem, because them groves are them Christmas trees. That's those evergreen trees. And let me tell you something, when people first get in the word, pretty much everybody done had that fight. When you get ready to take that Christmas tree and get rid of it, you can go ahead and schedule a family fight that day. You can go ahead and schedule that. You can put that family fight on the calendar. We're going to fight on the 16th at 1:30. Why? Come and take that Christmas tree. It's about to be ugly up in there. Because everybody done got together and made their little ornaments. See, then we get sentimental value on pagan worship. We got sentimental connections to pagan gods. And then we get mad when it's time, when we realize what those things are, and somebody starts to push those things. There are Christian pastors that are telling people to stop putting up Christmas trees. They know what it is, but they know how the people are connected to that. So people will come away from it for a little bit. Before you know it, they got that grove sitting right back up there. Yahweh disliked it so much, he said, don't put no grove nowhere near my altar. I don't want to see them, because I know what y'all do. Now, keep in mind now, the earth and the fullness therein belongs to Yahweh. That's his stuff. That's his tree. But because of the foulness that man has done with it, he said, when it come down to near my altar, I don't want to see no grove. Don't put none of them there. Because he knows how Israel reacts. That we'll put something in there, say we coming to worship Yahweh, but we got our other gods stuck and stuffed off in there as well. Like one of them put his carved image in the house of Yahweh. So he go to worship Yahweh, but still got his little carved image in there as well. See, Yahweh didn't allow us to do that. And that part gets confusing when we look at the imposters who are in our land. They are able to worship all manner of other gods and still claim Yahweh, and nothing happens to them. But they weren't given the curses. They weren't given the blessings and the curses. They were not given the law. They are proselytes or converts. They were not given this. You were. So everything is going to be heavier upon you, whether you like it or not. With all power comes responsibility. You cannot have one without the other. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah and Messiah, the governor of the city, and Joah the son of Joahaz, the recorder, to repair the house of Yahweh his Elohim. And when they came to Hilkiah, the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of Elohim, which the Levites that kept the doors had gathered of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and of all the remnant of Israel, and of all Yehudah and Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem. And they put it in the hand of the workmen that had the oversight of the house of Yahweh, and they gave it to the workmen that wrought in the house of Yahweh to repair and amend the house. Even to the artificers and builders gave they it, to buy hewn stone and timber for couplings, and to the floor the houses which the kings of Yehudah had destroyed. And the men did the work faithfully, and the overseers of them were Jahath and Obadiah, the Levites of the sons of Merari, and Zechariah and Meshullam, of the sons of the Kohathites, to set it forward, and other of the Levites, all that could skill of instruments of music. Also they were of the bearers of burdens, and were overseers of all that wrought the work in any manner of service. And of the Levites there were scribes and officers and porters. And when they brought out the money that was brought into the house of Yahweh, Hilkiah the priest found a book of the law of Yahweh given by Moshe.
Okay, so now they're finding the book of the law, all right? But had all of the other things not been done before that, you have to ask yourself, you know, several times I've read this and I go through and you say, man, they found the book of the law. What kind of mess is that? They found it. Then you don't consider the blessing part of that, because the one part of that is, yes, the children of Israel have gone so far away from what they were supposed to be doing. But you then have to look at it from the other side. As you are attempting to do what it is you're supposed to do, then Yahweh allows some other things for you. See, it was a blessing to even find the book. Now, had they not been in a way to try and restore the temple and restore things back to the way that it was supposed to be, who's to say that they ever would have even found the book? Go ahead.
And Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of Yahweh. And Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan. And Shaphan carried the book to the king, and brought the king word back again, saying, all that was committed to your servants, they do it, and they have gathered together the money that was found in the house of Yahweh, and have delivered it into the hand of the overseers, and to the hand of the workmen. Then Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah and Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, and Abdon, the son of Micah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Isaiah, a servant of the king's, saying, Go inquire of Yahweh for me, and for them that are left in Israel and in Yehudah, concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the anger of Yahweh that is poured out upon us, because our fathers have not kept the word of Yahweh, to do after all that is written in this book.
Right. So sometimes you have to consider the blessing that is even there in finding this, so that he now has the opportunity to do something about it. The anger of Yahweh was already there. The punishment was already on its way. Finding this gives an opportunity to bring all of those things to the forefront so they can be dealt with. Go ahead.
And Hilkiah and they that the king had appointed went to Huldah, the prophetess, the wife of Shallum, the son of Tikvath, the son of Hasrah, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they spake to her to that effect. And she answered them, Thus said Yahweh Elohim of Israel, Tell ye the man that sent you to me. Thus said Yahweh, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the curses that are written in the book which they have read before the king of Yehudah, because they have forsaken me, and have burnt incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my anger shall be poured out upon this place, and shall not be quenched. And as for the king of Yehudah, who sent you to inquire of Yahweh, so shall you say unto him, Thus said Yahweh Elohim of Israel, concerning the words which you have heard. Because your heart was tender, and you did humble yourself before Elohim, when you heard his words against this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, and humbleth yourself before me, and did render your clothes, and weep before me, I have even heard you also, saith Yahweh.
Right. So before he even knows about these things, Yahweh has already looked at how you dealt with it when you heard it. See, there's some people that hear the word and they're like, yeah, whatever. Then there's others that say, man, I got to do something about the things that I'm doing. I have to do something about the way that I have ordered my life. Yahweh know the difference. Go ahead.
Verse 28, Behold, I will gather you to your fathers, and you shall be gathered to your grave in peace. Neither shall your eyes see all the evil that I will bring upon this place, and upon the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word again. Then the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Yehudah and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of Yahweh, and all the men of Yehudah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the Levites and all the people, great and small. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of Yahweh.
See, one of the things that we have to take into consideration is the rulership, or the way that Yahweh has given us to govern ourselves. It is the same book in which we do our observance unto him. So although there's a separation between the king and the priest, the king was also required to have a copy of the same book that the priest had, so that he read out of that book and he governed according to that. And we've got gotten so accustomed to looking at how the heathen rules, that we think that that is the normal way that things are supposed to go. And we've been here in America so long that and America has been the top of the food chain for so long. It's some of us that just believe that there's no way that that can change. And we just are not paying attention that Russia got their own man in the office. He just had a private meeting with the man, and nobody else was in there to even hear what he said to the man. Now, they can prove that these people have completely affected the American election and got who they wanted in, and now he is on his way to the White House. Now, consider this. The very man who has orchestrated and manipulated the whole process of picking the president is now on his way to the presidential house. And everybody else, this man condemns everybody within his own country, but won't say nothing to the man who completely manipulated the whole election. We keep forgetting that Rome fell from the inside. We really don't see what's going on. We're still trying to get a piece of America's pie, and we don't see why all the companies are getting as much they glean in the vineyard. Glean in the vineyard means you go get as much money out of everything as you can. And that's what all the companies are doing. They merging, moving, they doing all of these things. Those are pre-destruction moves. And everybody know what's going on except us. We're still walking around trying to achieve things, and they taking as much as they can. Because all the rest of these people see the writing on the wall. This man is alienating this country to where their own allies don't even want to deal with them no more. But we don't want nothing to happen to America because we don't work hard. I mean, we built this place. And we feel like, hey, it's time for us to go ahead and get something out of it. Y'all ain't going to give you that here. Not something that they can't take away. Everything that you get here, they can take away tomorrow. You can pay for your house if you want to. They just say, oh, eminent domain, we want this. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. God bless, good night. That's their stuff. If they say you owe taxes, guess what? You might have to spend about $50,000, $60,000 to prove that you don't owe 10. And you know what they say? I'll bet. Okay, but I spent $50,000 to prove to you that I didn't owe 10. Well, congratulations, you're right. But what my 50? Oh, no, we don't get none of that back. What? Right. We don't even consider how wicked this place is. You can pay for a house for 29 years, be late for 3 months, and they take everything. According to this book, the land stay in the family. Once Yahweh show you, okay, this your land, this where you stay. 400 years later, they're going to come back and find your folk right there in the house. You know, Jane, you talking about my great-great-great-great-granddaddy? Yeah, they out. That's the way that's supposed to be. We've gotten so accustomed to wickedness that righteousness don't even seem right. Go ahead.
Verse 31. And the king stood in his place and made a covenant before Yahweh to walk after Yahweh and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and with all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant which are written in this book. And he caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of Elohim, the Elohim of their fathers. And Josiah took away all the abominations out of all the countries that pertained to the children of Israel, and made all that were present in Israel to serve, even to serve Yahweh their Elohim. And all his days they departed not from following Yahweh, the Elohim of their fathers.
And this is a wonderful statement. And Josiah took away all of the abominations out of all of the countries that pertain to the children of Israel. See, this is the work that has to be done. A lot of times we think about the children of Israel being restored, and we really don't understand the kind of job that we have to do. The job that has to be done is all of the idols and all of the false worship in every part of the land that pertains unto Israel. We got to take all that out. Y'all ought to just look at, don't look at that local news. Look at CNN International, or look on the internet and start looking at the stuff that's going on in Israel. You'll see some pretty interesting stuff going on there. You see some pretty large wickedness that's going to have to be restored. And Yahweh has left that job for us. Now, he going to help us do it, but not the children of the flesh. The children of the flesh of Israel ain't going to do jack, because the spirit not going to stay with them. You have to consider, Yahweh told Moses, he told Moshe, all right, I'm going to do all these great things. I'm going to give you this little magic staff right here. You're going to do all this stuff. And then right after that, the angel tried to kill him. Wait a minute. Now, you have any idea what kind of mind screw that got to be? Okay, all right, you blessed. You're going to be able to do all these things, and by the way, I'm finna kill you. Huh? What's with you trying to kill me stuff? Hey, why you ain't got them kids circumcised by now? Well, you know, my wife, you know, she was from another land, and you know, she don't really, yeah. Why you ain't got them kids circumcised yet? Well, see, because, right, you're going to die. He don't want to hear nothing about what your wife think, what she feel, what she believe. What's the law of Yahweh? Go take care of these children. I've given you enough leeway and enough time. Take care of your business. Yahweh operate the same way with us. He gonna give you a little time. He gonna give you a little leeway. But once you get to that point, this certain business better be taken care of. What's the difference? We got the same thing in school. You go to school every so often. They say, all right, you should know how to spell by now. Spelling test. They teach you a few things. All right, you should know how to add by now. Math test. And what happens when you can't pass that test? All right, go back to that grade and start that one over. We'll see you next year. And we're going to see if you can pass this test. What's the difference? We accept when the natural people do it. Why do we have a problem when Yahweh do it? You ain't supposed to be in the Word 10, 12 years and still doing the same things that you were doing 12 years ago. He gonna give you space. He don't turn around and give us the Word and then holds us responsible for the whole Word next Tuesday. That ain't righteous. But he gives us enough time to grow. But we just can't get comfortable in wherever the spot we are and believe that he's going to be okay with us staying there. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus chapter 26, and let's start that at verse 1. We're going to first go through these blessings for obedience.
You shall make you no idols, nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land, to bow down unto it, for I am Yahweh your Elohim. You shall keep my Shabbats and reverence my sanctuary. I am Yahweh.
Right. And when you deal with the keeping of these Shabbats, we have been, because most of us came out of Christendom, they have given us all kind of reasons why we don't have to keep the Sabbath. They have told us the resurrection of Christ changed the Sabbath. The Sabbath is based on creation. And Christ was there when it was created. So how did he change it? But the biggest part of the hypocrisy is that the so-called New Testament churches will still keep Pentecost, and the way you count it is 7 Sabbaths. So they counted the 7 Sabbaths. Pentecost is always on Sunday. So they counted 7 Sabbaths. 7 times 7 is 49. The next day is the 50th day. They always have Pentecost on Sunday. We've had Christian churches who had this Pentecost on the exact same day that we did. Now you didn't have to ask yourself. That means how you even count Pentecost is you go Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, then you count from the day that you offered that first fruit offering, you count 7 Sabbaths. So they knew when Passover was, they knew when Feast of Unleavened Bread was, and then they counted 7 Sabbaths and then kept their Pentecost on the exact same day as us. Now these are Christian pastors. How they know that? But they didn't keep not one Sabbath. But they knew every last one of them when they were. And we go back to some of the organizations of where you used to go and see if they keep Pentecost. And then you got to ask yourself, how did you keep it? Now, how they were able to trick us is that in the Old Testament, it calls it the Feast of Weeks. See, if we had saw the same name, we would have, the trickery would have jumped out. But because it's not the same name, because Penta is a Greek term meaning 50. If they had said we keeping the Feast of Weeks, you would have said, wait a minute. Well, I haven't heard of that before. Wait a minute. You would have been able to go back and pick that up. But you're not going to go in the Old Testament and find Pentecost. You're going to find Feast of Weeks. But if you don't have a study Bible and know that those are the same things, then they get to pull that wool over your eyes forever. And then people been going to church 30, 40 years and feel justified, show up on the Pentecost, have no idea This is the same people that say, oh, you keeping that bondage. They don't know that holy day come out the Old Testament. And they show up with their offering, their money. They got their seed offering. They got all that. Have no idea. All that came out of the Old Testament. Right. And they've been knowing this. They've been running this game on us forever. But the question is, are we able to humble ourselves and deal with the truth? Because we've heard the lie more than we've heard the truth. This is how the adversary works. He always had to be the first one to get to you to tell his story. So he always got to be, worried about the first one who running, he trying his best to get to you first. And that's how the adversary operates. He's got to get to you first to tell you his side of the story. So by the time you hear y'all's side, you already a little poisoned against his. Because Lucifer offers his easier. You ain't got to do nothing. Just shout and sing and dance, and I'll give you everything. Go ahead.
Brother, it also goes to show that they're more aware of our culture than we are, because even with all of that and getting to Pentecost, that means they know when the Hebrew New Year begins and all of that stuff.
Yeah, right. And we never knew that going to Sunday church. This is the part I'm trying to get y'all. We understand this now. Understand something. That means we were going to church on Sunday, and the pastor was sitting up there in his fine Italian suit. He knew Passover. He knew unleavened bread. He knew all of that. You were sitting there talking about, glory Jesus. He knew all of that. And he said nothing to none of us. You can't get no deeper of betrayal than that. When Joel Osteen said he'd been keeping the dietary laws for 2 years before he told his whole congregation. They out there sucking on pork chop. He has not eaten unclean in 2 years. And we don't consider you don't see the betrayal in that? Go ahead, bro.
Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 1. Or where are we at? Verse 3? Verse 3.
Go ahead.
If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. And your threshing shall reach on to the vintage, and the vintage shall reach on to the sowing time, and you shall eat your bread to full, and dwell in your land safely. And I'll give peace in the land, and you shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I'll rid evil beasts out of the land, neither shall the sword go through your land. And you shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight. And your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. For I'll have respect unto you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, and establish my covenant with you. And you shall eat old store, and bring forth the old because of the new.
Right. This is a part of the blessing. Basically what this is you get to be able to be sustained from yourself. This is the part. We get some money, because that's what people tell us, money means blessing. So, we get some money, we got, nice house, nice car. We say we blessed. Where you getting that from? Oh, okay, you got to go across town and go to work. No. Y'all always say when you blessed, no, you get all that stuff right from your place. You ain't going across town to go to work. No, your stuff right here. Everything you need right there. See, we don't understand blessing the way we think we do. So we work 13, 14 hours and say, man, I'm blessed. Now, if you blessed, you wouldn't have to work at all. See, you blessed, you just walk out the door, get some fruit, and I want some vegetables, and give me some of that right there. Give me some of that right there. And you go back into your paid for house and go eat. That's blessing. See, somebody allowed us. They tell us, oh, you blessed. Man, I don't work 15 hours. The hell you talking about? Yeah, I got a nice house, but I'm so tired. All I see is the ceiling. I said, this is the nicest ceiling I've ever seen in my life, because I get to look at it all night. Right. That's it. You get to enjoy none of it. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And I'll set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. And I'll walk among you, and will be your Elohim, and you shall be my people. I am Yahweh your Elohim, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt. that you should not be their bondmen. And I have broken the bands of your yoke and made you go upright.
Right. Now, these are the things that Yahweh wants the children of Israel to deal with. And it is so obvious that in any of these places where Yahweh is talking about the blessings and the curses, the blessing is always the shortest part of it. The curses is always the longest part. And every time. Go ahead.
But if you will not hearken unto me, and will not do all these commandments, and if you shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so that you will not do all my commandments, but that you break my covenant, I also will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror, consumption, and the burning ague, that shall consume the eyes, and cause sorrow of heart, and you shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemies shall eat it. And I'll set my face against you, and you shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and you shall flee when none pursueth you.
Right. You have a good job and can't stand your manager. The person right over you absolutely hates your guts, hate the skin you in, hate the way you walk, hate the way you talk, hate everything about you. That's part of the curse. Because see, Israel not supposed to have to deal with that. Not dealing with Yahweh's word brought that on us. That we got to work for somebody else and have to deal with all of their things. And when you deal with most of the hardest labor, look at the hardest jobs that you run into. It's us doing those jobs. Then you got other people managing, telling us what to do. But the hardest part, even though we might be getting paid, the hardest part of the job we're doing. Go ahead.
Verse 18, and if you will not yet for all this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins.
7 times more for your sins. So this is not a racial thing where we quick to say, well, these people did this. Yahweh was the one that said, I'm going to punish you 7 times more. But what we quick to do is look at whatever is used to punish us, and then we got indignation against that. That's like being mad at the belt that your daddy whoop you with. Can't stand that belt. That belt didn't whoop you. That belt was what your daddy used to whoop you. But that belt, you don't need to be mad at the belt. Go ahead.
And I'll break the pride of your power, and I'll make your heavens as iron, and your earth as brass. And your strength shall be spent in vain. For your land shall not yield her increase, neither shall the trees of the land yield her fruits.
Right. So now if you're not able to sustain yourself from your own land, now you got to go outside of your own land for sustenance. That's a punishment. So there used to be a time that even when we had little bitty corner stores, those corner stores were our little corner stores in our neighborhood. To this day, we don't consider the curses. We got money, and then we still have to go 10 blocks over to get something worth value. Because we really don't even want to shop in the stores in our neighborhood. Half the time they ain't got that. And then the stuff they got, it ain't good stuff. I go down this store down the street, they got 3 bottles of Crystal Springs. I'm like, damn, we ain't supposed to drink water. Black people supposed to be thirsty. I go 10 more miles down the road, water stacked up everywhere. They got a whole nother section for the water. I mean, what the hell? I guess white people get thirsty. Why they got more water in here? Right? That's part of the curse. See, there's certain things that we don't even consider. We just think that it's something that, people are being funny while these things are happening to us. We don't consider that the answer is right here in this book, why certain things are happening unto us. Go ahead.
And if you walk contrary unto me, and will not hearken unto me, I'll bring 7 times more plagues upon you according to your sins.
Right. So when it comes down to diseases, we got more of those than everybody else. When it comes down to ailments, we got more of those than everybody else. Same thing like you was talking about in the new moon class, I think it was, that same things happen to us, happen to other people, but we'll die from it, and they'll keep living. we get 7 times more plagues than everybody else. Because Yahweh gave you a holy and righteous law. He didn't give it to everybody else. So you eat that stuff, you sick off in the corner. They eat it and go and play basketball. You like, what? Ain't nothing, Yahweh didn't do nothing to that. Right, because you getting punished 7 times more. He told you not to eat that. Go ahead.
I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children, and destroy your cattle, and make you few in number, and your highways shall be desolate.
Right, and the wild beasts that rob us of our children today look just like us. That's them black thugs. That's who rob you of your children. You send your children out, let them go. And I always tell them I hate them house parties. When I was growing up, the most people got shot at them damn house parties. I was like, no, I ain't going no more of them. That way everybody got shot at. Because when nobody getting patted down and naked. To this day, them wild beasts are robbing you of your children. And the kids don't understand when they try to go somewhere and you like, look, I don't know how I feel about that. And the kids like, why you won't let me go? Because you think about them wild beasts that's trying to rob you of your children. But they're not thinking about that. They just think, you know, my parents being hard on me. Hey, all them people that you see crying on TV, they baby left one day and said, Mom and Daddy, I'll see you when I get back. And they never came back. And them people dying from a broken heart. But kids don't understand that. They just think you just ain't letting them do what they want to do. But them wild beasts who look just like us are out there ready to rob you of your children. Go ahead.
And if you will not be reformed by me by these things, but will walk contrary unto me, then will I also walk contrary unto you, and will punish you yet 7 times more for your sins. And I'll bring a sword among you, that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when you are gathered together within your cities, I will send the pestilence among you, and you shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. And when I have broken the staff of your bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver you your bread again by weight, and you shall eat and not be satisfied.
So you're not going to have enough to even be satisfied. That stuff where your land should have produced for you, now you got to buy your stuff by weight. So you getting it a little bit at a time, whereas you're supposed to have all of it. But not considering. The curse brought this among us. Go ahead.
And if you will not for all this hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me, then I will walk contrary unto you also in fury. And I, even I, will chastise you 7 times for your sins. And you shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall you eat.
And Israel had to do this when they were locked up in the land trying to fight against the invading army. They ended up consuming their own people. Go ahead.
And I'll destroy your high places, and cut down your images, and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols, and my soul shall abhor you. And I'll make your cities waste, and bring your sanctuaries onto desolation, and I'll not smell the savor of your sweet odors. And I'll bring the land into desolation, and your enemies, which shall dwell therein, shall be astonished at it. And I'll scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste.
Right. So as he spread us out, our enemies then go and move in our land and enjoy our land, because we are under the punishment and are not allowed to go in. Even the people who decide that they're going to visit, or they say, I'm going to go back to Israel. You go over there, you find out that them people said, no, you can stay in that part over there. You find out that they give you, that they treat you like a visitor in your land. They let the Ethiopians come over there, and then they give them sterilization shots so they won't multiply. But telling all the rest of the Jewish people from all over the world, come on, come to Israel. We need more Jewish people. Then the black people come over there, they give them a shot. We don't need more, y'all. We don't want y'all to multiply. There's something seriously wrong with that. Go ahead.
Verse 34. Then shall the land enjoy her Shabbats, as long as it lies desolate, and you be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Shabbat.
So the land going to enjoy her Sabbath because you in your enemy land going to church on Sunday. Go ahead.
As long as it lies desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Shabbats when you dwelt upon it.
And that's a problem. Why was it not able to rest when you were in your own land? Go ahead.
And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the lands of their enemies. And the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when none pursueth.
Right. A shaken leaf shall chase them. And you know, black people are the only people that do this. You know, one of us take out running, all the rest of us take out running. Go do that among white people. They don't do that. Go be with a group of black people, and for no reason at all, take off running, and see them by 4 or 5 black people be right beside you. Hey, bro, what we running for? Hell, you know what the hell they running for? We just take off. Do that among white people, and they can be like, why are they running? They don't do that. They wasn't given those curses. They don't just take off running for no reason. They take off running, they know what they're running for. Right. Nobody does that but us. And when I say nobody, go. I don't care if it's Chinese, Ethiopian, Japanese. Nobody does that but us. Right. Go ahead.
And they shall fall one upon another, as it were before a sword, when none pursues. And you shall have no power to stand before your enemies. And you shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And they that are left of you shall pine away in their lawlessness in your enemies' lands. And also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them.
Right. So all the things that we've learned from previous generations, we then just continue to walk in them and grow worse and worse and worse. We call it tradition. You ask people, well, why do you do this? Well, I don't really know. It's just, it's what my family has always done. So we're strong in tradition even though we don't understand it. Go ahead.
If they shall confess their lawlessness and the lawlessness of their fathers with their trespass which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled,
uncircumcised
hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their lawlessness.
Right. And most of the people who decide that they're going to go off and live here or go off and live there, they have not accepted the punishment. They said, look, I'm tired of the punishment. I'm ready to go. And every last one of our people that decide to do it, they end up in more trouble than if they had dealt with the punishment. Go ahead.
Then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Esau, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Shabbats, while she lieth desolate without them, and they shall accept of the punishment of their lawlessness, because they despise my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes.
Now, consider this. Yahweh says, all right, I'm going to send you out of the land, right? The land will enjoy her Sabbath while it lies desolate. Well, what do you think happens if you keep being punished? And understand that when you understand the whole thing of Israel being created to be a servant, that when you get ready to be punished by Yahweh, he's going to punish you with servitude. That's what you were created to be. You were created to be his servant. And Yahweh says, I'm a jealous Elohim. So when you start to serve other gods, it automatically activates his jealousy. It is a part of your punishment. So what do you think happens as the other nations just keep sitting there looking, and you get punished and your land keep being left empty? So 1 or 2 times, yeah, the land will just be desolate. But you consider, you leave an empty house and don't nobody go to that house. What you think people gonna start doing? They're gonna start living in the house. They just gonna walk in there. And then they get squatters' rights, after they've been there for a while. What you think happened to our land? You think you can just keep getting punished over and over and keep getting sent out of the land, and you don't think nobody else gonna go in it? And they keep seeing you getting sent out of the land. There they go again. Boy, these are the most disobedient people I ever seen in my life. Look what there they go again. Man, they got some nice houses up in there. I'm gonna go in there and pick me one of those. Go ahead.
And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am Yahweh, their Elohim. But I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their Elohim. I am Yahweh. These are the statutes and judgments and laws which Yahweh made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moshe.
All right, let's go to Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4, and let's read verses 1 through 7.
Verse 1. And Yahshua, being full of the Holy Ghost, returned from Jordan, and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil, and in those days he did eat nothing. And when they were ended, he afterward hungered. And the devil said unto him, If you be the Son of Elohim, command these stones that it be made bread.
Right. So understanding that this spirit of Israel that have entered into this body has never been inside of flesh and does not know the limitations of flesh. So then he tempts him with physical hunger. Go ahead.
And Yahshua answered him, saying, It is written that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of Elohim. And the devil, taking him up into an high mountain, showed unto him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time.
Right. Now, so the devil has then showed him all of these things. Go ahead.
And the devil said unto him, All this power will I give you, and the glory of them, for that it is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will, I give it.
All right. We just read the conditions for Yahweh's blessing. Lucifer said, I bless you. He said, you see all this stuff here? You see all these kingdoms? You see all this stuff? This power is given unto me, and I give it to whomsoever I will. Read next line.
If you therefore will worship me, all shall be yours.
Right. So all Lucifer wants is praise and worship. That's what we used to do on Sunday morning. That's why you scream so long. That's why sometimes the songs will be playing, and you never even get a chance to open the book. Because you just worship, 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 worship. Yahweh said, oh no, you was created to be a servant. So then you have to ask people, so what do? You're a servant of Elohim. Before, all we had to do, praise and worship, praise and worship. You go through the whole church service, and not one book was open. Sometimes they sing the whole thing. That's all Lucifer wants. That's all he asked for. And he said, I'll give you everything. You want some cars? I'll give you some of that. You want a house? I'll give you that. Just worship me. Matter of fact, one of y'all just take off running. Just go dancing. Right, I'll give y'all that. Yahweh says something altogether different. Go ahead, brother. No, he's not going to deliver you from captivity. What do you want to do that for? You know, he don't want to deliver you from captivity. He grows from your captivity. Well, what did the book say? He did not open the house of his prisoners. Wait a minute. He got prisoners? Right. The people who serve him. And they don't know it. See, they serving him unknowingly. You got two different kinds of Luciferian worshipers. The on-purpose kind. That be the pastors. And then you have the accidental worshipers of Lucifer. That was us sitting in those seats. So those accidental worshipers of Lucifer, they don't know that they're worshiping him. They thought they were worshiping God. That's what we were going for. We didn't know all the rest of that stuff. But I tell you what, now that I got a study Bible, I realized all that stuff he knew all them years ago. Then and then it's certain things, once you learn, your memory start going. Wait a minute. Such and such said that 10 years ago. This man knew it. Oh boy, on that's a different kind of level of festivity I get when I start figuring out them things was known 10, 12, 15 years ago. Oh, different level of festivity start coming up then. Oh, you know this. So you thinking, and I had some people do it, right? We talked to them. They said, I'm going to go talk to my pastor about this Yahweh thing. And they go and find out their pastor been knowing Yahweh for the last 25 years, and it break their heart, and they come back. And I said, oh, that heart, bro. Come on, let me help you pick it back up. Go on, tell me. He knew it, didn't he? Yeah. I said, yeah, I told you. You think you gonna tell them a secret? You ain't telling them nothing. They have made a decision. That's something altogether different. They made a decision that this is what they were gonna do, because they said that is what's going to bring them money, power, and circumstance. And you thinking, they just don't know. No, they've been knowing. And sinning with knowledge is way worse than anything you could ever do. We were sinning without knowledge. We didn't know that. They did. They knew exactly what they were doing. They went to seminary schools. They taught them this. Until somebody showed me, I had never even seen, when they had Lord in here, that one had a capital L, one had all capitals, and one had all lowercase. I ain't never seen that until I got in the Word. They showed them that in seminary school. That those were three different entities. And then if you go in this study Bible, it's a sheet that explains every last one of those things to you. And they've been knowing all that. They just decided they weren't going to tell us. Because, people with education are harder to rule over. Unless you indoctrinate them when you educate them. Then they become easier to rule over. That's why there was always a break in our spiritual education. Let's go to Psalms chapter 32. And that same reason is why you have so many problems with Hebrew Israelites. Because you have some people, they learn, and 3 weeks later they ready to open their own church. That's it. Now they've been in Christendom for 30 years. They become a Hebrew for 3 weeks. They ready. I'm out. I've learned enough. Just enough to get yourself and somebody else killed. I'm out. I've been studying for 2.5 whole weeks. And I stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night. Yeah, all right. Go right ahead. Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to see when the rubber hit the road. What's going to happen? Psalms 32, and let's read verses 1 through 11.
Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man unto whom Yahweh imputeth not lawlessness, and in whose spirit there is no guile. When I kept silent, my bones waxed old through my roaring all the day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My moisture is turned into the drought of summer. I acknowledge my sin unto you, and my lawlessness have I not hid. I said, I will confess my transgressions unto Yahweh, and you forgave the lawlessness of my sin.
Right. It says in the beginning, blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven and whose sin is covered. His sin is covered, meaning that it is taken care of, not that he tried to cover his sin by lying. See, he who tries to cover his own sin in a natural way, he gonna always come up short. Go ahead.
For this shall every one that is godly pray unto you in a time when you may be found. Surely in the floods of great waters they shall not come near unto him. You are my hiding place. You shall preserve me from trouble. You shall compass me about with songs of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way which you shall go. I will guide you with mine eye. Be you not as the horse or as the mule, which have no understanding, whose mouth must be held in with bit and bridle, lest they come near unto you. Many sorrows shall be to the wicked, but he that trusts in Yahweh, mercy shall compass him about. Be glad in Yahweh, and rejoice, you righteous, and shout for joy, all you that are upright in heart.
All right, let's go to Jonah chapter 3. Let's go and read about Jonah. And we have to consider some things. And all of the things that we have read about, dealing with these kings, Yahweh, a lot of times, even in our conquest, he leaves maybe it may be just a little small remnant of those people left alive. And like he said before, I would leave things among you to see if you're going to serve me. So he leave that one. That one then turned into a whole nation who hate your guts. But as long as you do what you're supposed to do, they will never have the power to come do anything to you. When we then go against Yahweh, he then allows those people to then come in and invade us. So then consider our own natural homes and houses where we have peace. And then all of a sudden, turmoil. You have to ask yourself, do we look at it and say, Yahweh has opened the door to this turmoil because of something that we have refused to deal with? We don't look at it like that. We don't consider. Because when you talk about this invasion, Yahweh was the one that caused that. Yahweh gave them power. All right, go deal with that. So he's the one that disrupted the peace. Why? That's what you have to ask yourself. Why? And if you backtrack and can figure out why, then you can fix the peace or lack thereof. Jonah chapter 3.
9:44.
Okay, appreciate it. And start at verse 1.
Jonah chapter 3 and verse 1. And the word of Yahweh came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid you. So Jonah arose and went on to Nineveh, according to the word of Yahweh. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey. And he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown.
Now, he don't want to go to Nineveh, period, because he don't want them to repent. See, there's certain times that, and you have to consider, maybe he suffered something in this land. Maybe somebody from over there did something to him. So he really don't want them to be restored. And sometimes we act the same way. When somebody do something to us, we don't want them to get forgiven. No, I want them to die a horrible and slow death, Yahweh. Kill them all. But what happened if they repent? Do you want the same thing for other people as you want for yourself? You want forgiveness for you? Do you allow an opportunity for other people to have the same forgiveness that you want for yourself? Read, bro.
So the people of Nineveh believed Elohim and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them.
So the people of Nineveh believed Elohim. Remember from the beginning of the book, it says Abraham believed Elohim and it was accounted unto him for righteousness. All he did was believe. He believed and it was automatically accounted as righteousness. Now, here goes some foul people. But they believed the warning. Read.
For the word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock, taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water.
So he is then proclaiming a fast amongst all of them because of the word of Elohim. Go ahead.
But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and cry mightily unto Elohim.
Sackcloth is one of the most uncomfortable fabrics you will ever feel in your life. If you want to know what sackcloth feel like, go to the grocery store and when they got them sacks of potatoes, the one that's in that little brown bag,
Burlap.
that burlap, yeah, just rub your skin across that burlap. Just rub it across there. Now imagine that all over your body. This is what they did to punish themselves, to humble themselves. They put that on. Go ahead.
Yea, let them turn everyone from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hands. Who can tell if Elohim will turn and repent and turn away from his fierce anger, that we perish not?
Mm-hmm.
And Elohim saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and Elohim repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not.
Right. So now that they've humbled themselves in the fact that they have turned from this thing, because just humbling yourself and beginning to back up is already an admission that, yes, we have done evil in the sight of Yahweh. Now we are going to proclaim a fast. We're going to humble ourselves. We're going to get out of our normal routine of what we would normally be doing. And we're going to do enough to show Yahweh that we are backing back from this thing. Keep going.
But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was very angry.
Mm-hmm.
And he prayed unto Yahweh, and said, I pray you, O Yahweh, was not this my saying when I was yet in my country?
In other words, I didn't want to be successful. I didn't want them to repent. I want them people to be destroyed. Go ahead.
Therefore I fled before unto Tarshish, for I knew that you are a gracious Elohim, and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth you of the evil.
Right, but didn't want Yahweh to repent of the evil. He wanted to see them destroyed. Go ahead.
Therefore now, O Yahweh, take, I beseech you, my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live.
So you won't kill them, but just kill me then, because I don't want to see them prosper. That's some deep anger and hatred that we have. Go ahead.
Then said Yahweh, does you well to be angry? So Jonah went out of the city, and sat on the east side of the city, and there made him a booth, and sat under it in the shadow, till he might see what would become of the city. And Yahweh Elohim prepared a gourd, and made it to come up over Jonah, that it might be a shadow over his head, to deliver him from his grief. So Jonah was exceeding glad of the gourd. But Elohim prepared a worm in the morning. But Elohim prepared a worm when the morning rose the next day, and it smote the gourd, that it withered. And it came to pass, when the sun did arise, that Elohim prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat upon the head of Jonah, that he fainted. And he wished in himself to die, and said, it is better for me to die than to live. And Elohim said to Jonah, does you well to be angry for the gourd? And he said, I do well to be angry, even unto death. Then said Yahweh, you have had pity on the gourd, for the which you have not labored, neither made it grow, which came up in a night, and perished in a night.
So in other words, Yahweh put forth a situation that he might be able to see the wickedness of his thought process. So Yahweh let the gourd come up. He let him be given something, and then allowed it to be taken away so that he can understand what he was doing to somebody else. See, sometimes that's the only way we are able to see the multitude of the evil of our thought process, when it's turned around and come back to us in another way. Now the question is, do you see it when it happens? Because sometimes people will be in the middle of cussing somebody else out, and then you can see it in their eyes when they read, you mother sucker, you, wait a minute, that's exactly what I did last week. Right? You can see in their eyes at the point where they starting, and you and wait a minute. Right. You some people never figure it out. It is a blessing that you figured out, that you're in that process of realizing, wait a minute, that's what I did to somebody else. Hold on. That's that spirit in you trying to fight the flesh in you. Say, notice this. Go ahead.
And, you know, even with the gourd, it was something that brought comfort onto him.
Right. Something that he didn't do nothing for. You know, you didn't create it. Yahweh Elohim is the creator of all things, just like he created those people. But you want his creation to be destroyed because of your personal feelings. That's what we feel about each other. When somebody do something to us, do understand that was still a creation of Yahweh. But you want that creation of Yahweh to be destroyed because of something didn't happen right to you? Go ahead.
And should not I spare Nineveh, that great city, wherein are more than 600,000 persons that cannot discern between their right hand and their left hand, and also much cattle?
Listen to what he says. Should I not spare Nineveh, this great city that are more of 600,000 persons that cannot discern between their right hand and their left? Now, they may not be very intelligent, spiritual wise, but they knew to repent.
Mm-hmm.
See, everybody want to think that it's all about, you know, oh, I know this in the book, and I can figure out prophecies. I can be. They didn't know their left hand from their right, but they knew, you know what? I'm gonna humble myself before Yahweh. Certain things preserve your spirit. They didn't know their left from their right hand. Now, consider this. You got Israel, who knew all of these things and won't repent. And the people who know absolutely nothing, repent. That's why I told people sometimes some of the most foul things I've seen done in this word were done by people who had been in this word 10, 20, 25, 30 years. I mean, I found them people in the word when I got in the word. So it wasn't like they didn't understand. Right. But all their knowledge didn't stop them from doing evil. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1. See what it says, understanding the from the law comes the knowledge of sin. So then you know that you have sinned because of when you read the law and see what's in it. But there still has to be some fortitude within you to allow you to not walk in that way. The law don't stop you from sinning. The law just explains to you how you sin. The law don't stop you from doing that. You still got to have something inside you that says, I ain't going to be a murderer. I'm not going to be a liar. The law don't stop you from doing it. It just explains to you what you did. Proverbs chapter 1, and let's start that at verse 1.
The Proverbs of Shlomo, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels.
Mm-hmm.
To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge.
The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. So the people who didn't understand their left hand from their right hand already had the beginning of knowledge because their beginning part was that they feared Yahweh. That was the first and biggest step they could have ever made. Then you have people that have all kind of knowledge in this word, but they don't fear Yahweh. Because if they feared Yahweh, there's certain things they wouldn't do. You can tell people who fear the cops because they operate a certain way. When you see people that don't fear the cop, they do all kind of stuff. Why? They don't have no fear in them. Very seldom do you see videos of black people just cussing the police out. Because we got enough fear of the police, we know they'll kill you. You see videos with Gentiles, they don't have any fear of the police like that. They'll cut the police out like it ain't nothing. The police not going to shoot them like they're going to shoot us. I seen a man cuss the police out so bad, I was in amazement. Wow. He didn't even slam him up against the car, nothing. That's amazing to us to see that kind of stuff. But they don't have that thing coming at them. They don't, the get out of jail free card for abuse don't work when you abuse Gentiles in this country. That card work when you do stuff to black people. See they've been playing on the news, the 2 white cops who had a little app, a coin flipping app to decide whether or not they were gonna take their white girl to jail, and they done got in trouble. Folk kill black folk and still don't get in trouble at their job. They had that coin flipping app to decide they were gonna take that white girl to jail, and now their jobs are in jeopardy. You don't get that kind of leeway. See, those people know who they have leeway to deal with in a erroneous manner. But it's because of what's written in this book. Yahweh said, I'm going to punish you 7 times more. You're going to be punished more than everybody else. Go ahead.
But fools despise wisdom and instruction. Verse 8, my son, hear the instruction of your father, and forsake not the law of your mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto your head, and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, consent you not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not you in the way with them. Refrain your foot from their path. For their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. And they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of every one that is greedy of gain, which takes away the life of the owners thereof. Wisdom cries without, she utters her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she utters her words, saying, how long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? And the scorners delight in the scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you.
Turn you at my reproof. So at my correction, if you turn, I will pour out my spirit upon you and will make known my words unto you. Go ahead.
Because I have called, and you refused, I have stretched out mine hand, and no man regarded. But you have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity, and will mock when your fear comes. When your fear comes as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For they that hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of Yahweh.
Right, and Yahweh has a tendency not to show people whose heart is not right. He won't show them his power. So they will never learn to fear him. So by the time they see his power upon that day of judgment, it's going to be too late to repent. See, those that he wants to repent, he shows them his power. Go ahead.
They would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkens unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil.
All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 8. Deuteronomy chapter 8, and let's start that at verse 1.
All the commandments which I command you this day shall you observe to do, that you may live, and multiply, and go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore unto your fathers.
So before Yahweh gave us a land, he gave us a law that will cause us to be able to abide in that land in a peaceful manner. So we have to consider that these things go hand in hand, because the adversaries of Yahweh have set up seminary schools and taught our pastors to teach us. They taught us that the law is nothing but bondage. And when you get right down to it, Yahweh didn't give us a law until he was actually giving us freedom. We were already in bondage. We were in bondage in Egypt. He gave us a law when he gave us freedom. But what they tell you on Sunday morning is you're dealing with the bondage. No, not dealing with the law got me in bondage. Same thing happened today. Don't deal with the law. What they do? They put you in jail. Bondage. When you deal with the law, you go away from bondage. But that's a slick trick of the devil to tell you that all this Old Testament, all this law, this ain't nothing but bondage. But when you don't deal with it, that's when you end up in bondage. Boy, the devil's slick. He is extremely slick in the way that he plays his game. So Yahweh did not give us a law until he got ready to give us a land of our own. So the people who actually want you to stay in bondage, those are the people that want you not to understand this law, because you'll never be able to govern yourself, because you'll always then be dependent on your oppressor to govern you. Anytime we got a disagreement, let's go down to the courthouse and we'll see who right, me or Kish. Why are you not able to govern among yourselves? See, that's what captives do. They got to run the master to tell them who's right or wrong. But people who are able to govern themselves, free people, have something to govern themselves by. See, we can go in this book and go and find out, all right, I did such and such, Kish did such and such. According to this, I'm wrong. Sorry, Kish, here's that. I took from you. I wasn't right in that, according to this. We didn't need nobody else to come and tell us that. But captives always need somebody else to tell them who's right, who's wrong, which way to go, which way not to go, when to go, what time to do it. That's the direction of captives. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your Elohim led you these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you and to prove you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or no.
So we're talking about an 11-day journey that ended up stretching out to 40 years, and he did this to prove us and to humble us. Now, everything we go through that is unpleasurable, we then say, the adversary done brought this among me. The adversary has brought this in my house. And it might be Yahweh. They came there and set that trouble right at your front door. Here you go, here's the trouble. What you give me that for? I want to see what you're going to do with it. Let me see the proof of your belief. Go ahead.
And he humbled you and suffered you to hunger and fed you with manna, which you kneweth not.
So Yahweh took away your daily food to humble you. There's no way that some of us will even put that to Yahweh. That Yahweh has taken. We opened the cupboard and ain't no food in there. We talking about the devil done came through here, he done did some evil in here. Yahweh like, no, I got that food. I took all that. Because see, it was all that stuff that was keeping you from being able to serve me. So every time I try to get your attention, you go get something else to take the attention that I'm trying to get. So I tell you what, give me all this stuff that you keep running to that causes me not to be able to meet eye to eye with you. Give me the car, give me this, give me that, give me this. Now I bet I get your attention now. Go ahead.
Neither did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread only, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yah does man live.
And you know what the beauty of all of that? The earth and the fullness therein belongs to Yahweh. Everything that he takes from you, he's able to give back to you sevenfold. He punished you sevenfold. He's able to give it back sevenfold. The stuff is his. The earth and the fullness therein is his stuff. Everything you see, this his stuff. And you, as being the children of Israel, the earth is your inheritance. Anything he's taken from you, he has way more power than that to give it all back, and to give it back better than what he took. But because we think in the now, it's hard to deal with that. Go ahead.
Your raiment waxed not old upon you, neither did your foot swell these 40 years. You shall also consider in your heart that, as a man chasteneth his son, so Yahweh your Elohim chastens you. Therefore you shall keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him. For Yahweh your Elohim brings you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and depths that spring out of valleys and hills. A land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of oil olive and honey, a land wherein you shall eat bread without scarceness. You shall not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hill you may dig brass.
So consider this. Yahweh then gives you a land, and the only thing you have to do is to abide by the law of Yahweh. We got our tithe and our offerings. That's it. All the rest of the stuff is ours. Now we get hit with tax. That FICA dude, he be in your check before you getting your check. FICA give you the leftover money. That's a part of a curse. Remember, they were trying to taunt the Messiah, saying, should the people pay tribute or not? What you think he was asking? He was asking him, should we pay taxes? That's why he said, show me the money. Whose name is superscription? Whose is that? That's Caesar's, right? Yeah. Run down to Caesar's what is his. They were trying to trick him into getting him to say, don't pay taxes. That's a punishment. We have no idea. You get punished every week. You don't even know it. All that stuff coming out your check, that's punishment. Man, we ain't supposed to be paying no tax. But when you're dealing with these curses, we got to deal with that. That ain't going to be so in our land. See, 10% tithe don't sound all that bad when you realize you ain't got to pay for the house. You ain't got to pay for the car. You ain't got to go to work. Wait a minute. 10% is, we growing. And we ain't got to pay them for 10%. But we didn't consider that. So now, we getting all the judgment now. So you got people say, oh my God, 10% tithe. Yeah, you weren't supposed to pay nothing else though. The land wasn't never going to leave you. So you don't have to keep paying for that when it's already yours. It's going to be your land forever. What do you have to pay for? Nothing. These are the effects of the curses. There's certain parts of the curse that we've got so accustomed to that we think this is normal. It's not normal for most of your check to go away from you. That's not normal. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 10. When you have eaten and art full, then you shall bless Yahweh your Elohim for the good land which he has given you. Beware that you forget not Yahweh your Elohim in not keeping his commandments and his judgments and his statutes, which I command you this day. Least when you have eaten and art full, and have built goodly houses and dwell therein, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied.
This works the total opposite of being humble. Now we got all of this stuff, and Yahweh already told us before he gave it to us. This is what's going to cause you to have an attitude problem with me right here. Now I'm going to give you all this stuff because I want to give you this stuff. But this is when I'm going to have the most problems with you. Go ahead.
Then your heart be lifted up, and you forget Yahweh your Elohim, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led you through that great and terrible wilderness, wherein were fiery serpents and scorpions and drought, where there was no water, who brought you forth water out of the rock of flint.
So consider yourself as a parent that your kid asks you for something and you really want to give this to your kid. You know, Because, I mean, you love your kid and you have the substance to do it. You got enough money to buy this thing for your kid. But you know that when you give this to your kid, that it's going to make them one of the most rotten individuals that you have ever come across. Now you got a dilemma. You want to bless this kid, but this blessing is going to turn into a curse because of what it's going to do to them. Now you understand Yahweh's point. Now you understand his position. That he want to give us substance. He wants to give you all of those things. But then when he does, he don't hear from you. Now he got to come looking for you. Esaac, you used to talk to me, bro. Where you at? Well, you know, you gave me this big house, you know, a couple cars. I ain't got time for you now. All right, I tell you what, well, give me back 2 of them cars and cut that house in half. No, man, I call you. My bad. Right. Go ahead.
Who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers knew not, that he might humble you, and that he might prove you, to do you good at your latter end.
Right. And we don't consider, okay, he fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers knew not, that he might humble you. You know, it's humbling to eat the same thing every day. Hey, we eat the same thing in 2 days, and we be arguing. Excuse me, we ain't got nothing else. I'm sick of this. I tell you what. Try it for the next 39 and a half years. See how tired you get up. Go ahead.
But you know, that's the concept of when you eat for taste and not for substance.
Right.
Because I've got a coworker, man, I don't see how you eat the same thing every day for lunch. Brother, I'm eating to have something in my stomach, not for taste.
Hey, bro. When we, especially when you get down to, you know, these curses and the things that our people have had to go through, sometimes that food then becomes our biggest punishing thing unto ourselves. There's people that still eat them chitlins and all of that stuff, which were the parts of the pig that they cut off. It was the parts that they didn't want. It was the undesirable part. And black folks still eat that to this day. They cut off the feet, they cut out the intestines, and all the, that's why they get the term, you know, he high on the hog. High on the hog was supposed to be the good parts of the hog. First of all, there ain't no good parts of a hog. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. There's no good parts of the pig. But the bottom parts were the parts that they wouldn't eat. So they threw those parts away. And word has it that the first people who tried to eat chitlins died because they didn't clean it right. Because that was the intestine. And you can tell it's something you ain't supposed to eat. You can tell real easy. When you cook them chitlins and you walk in the house, good God almighty, what is that smell? They're like, oh, we finna eat this. Y'all finna eat that? Y'all eat that on y'all own? Even when I was heathen, I ain't eat them chitlins. I didn't eat them chitlins. I said, man, I ain't, that don't smell like it's supposed to be a dish. That smell like it should be flushed. That does not smell like a dish. That stuff had your whole house stinking. And then even when they get through eating it, you can smell it in the wall. God, it's in the wall. It's in the curtains. There's something wrong with that, man. That was the part they didn't eat. To this day, when I was growing up, you could go to the candy lady and see them pickled pig feet sitting in them jars. And it was the most disgusting looking thing ever. You didn't see them in nobody else's neighborhood, just ours. Those were the parts that they cut off that they didn't like. To this day, those things are still poisoning us. And people don't know why they are still going to eat it. But you don't find nobody else. And let me tell you something. The heathen, they love pork. They love pork. But go in the heathen establishment and see if they're eating chitlins or pig feet. Go ahead. Go to a barbecue place. And all they do is eat pork. Go in there and ask them and see, y'all got some pig feet? Hell no. They tell you right off the rip, no, we ain't eating none of that. That's slave food. Right. And we still eating it to this day. Poisoning ourselves. Go ahead, bro.
Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 17. And you say in your heart, my power, my might of mine hand has gotten me this wealth.
Mm-hmm. I went to school. Go ahead.
But you shall remember Yahweh your Elohim, For it is he that gives you power to get wealth,
Mhm.
that he may establish his covenant which he sware unto your fathers, as it is this day. And it shall be, if you do at all forget Yahweh your Elohim, and walk after other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish. As the nations which Yahweh destroyed before your face, so shall you perish, because you would not be obedient unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim.
All right, let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 16. Proverbs chapter 16, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
The preparations of the heart in man, and the answer of the tongue is from Yahweh. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but Yahweh weighs the spirits.
All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes. It's hard for us to consider within ourselves or chasten our own selves because those things that are in our view seem, they don't seem troublesome. And the more that we are not able to chastise ourselves, the more we open up ourselves to have to be chastened by Yahweh. Because we can't self-correct. In the beginning of your walk, yeah, it should be difficult to self-correct. But the more you learn about this word, the easier self-correction should become. Because when we give Yahweh no option, then of course he got to come and do the correction. And I always tell people, trust me, it is going to be much better for you if you are able to chastise and correct yourself. When Yahweh had to do it, trust me, it is a lot more grievous. Go ahead.
Commit your works unto Yahweh, and your thoughts shall be established. Yahweh has made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil.
Right, so the wicked have a job to do. See, you got wheat and tares, and the tares have a job to do. See, the tares either destroy the wheat or make it stronger. You have to decide if the tares are going to destroy you or if they're going to make you stronger. So then Yahweh will make one of them weeds grow up right beside you. Say either this weed, and you say, oh, this is my best friend. This is my best friend in the world. Yahweh, all right. Well, either your friend going to cause you to be stronger or your friend going to kill you off in their word. And let's see which one you're going to let it do. Go ahead.
Everyone that is proud in heart is an abomination to Yahweh. Though hand join in hand, he shall not be unpunished. By mercy and truth, lawlessness is purged, and by the fear of Yahweh, men depart from evil. When a man's ways please Yahweh, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues without right. A man's heart deviseth his way, but Yahweh directs his steps. A divine sentence is in the lips of the king. His mouth transgress not in judgment. A just weight and balance are Yahweh's. All the weights of the bag are his work. It is an abomination to kings to commit wickedness, for the throne is established by righteousness. Righteous lips are the delight of kings, and they love him that speaks right. The wrath of a king is as messengers of death, but a wise man will pacify it. In the light of the king's countenance is life, and his favor is as a cloud of the latter rain. How much better is it to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding rather to be chosen than silver? The highway of the upright is to depart from evil. He that keeps his way preserves his soul. Pride goes before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall.
So it's then leading you that way. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. The pride and the haughty spirit will not allow man to be humble. So even when Yahweh attempts to correct man, the pride and haughty spirit won't allow it to happen. Go ahead.
Better is it to be of an humble spirit with the lowly than to divide the spoil with the proud. He that handles a matter wisely shall find good, and whoso trusts in Yahweh, happy is he. The wise in heart shall be called prudent, and the sweetness of the lips increase learning. Understanding is a wellspring of life unto him that has it, but the instructions of fools is folly. The heart of the wise teacheth his mouth, and adds learning to his lips. Pleasant words are as an honeycomb, sweet to the soul, and health to the bones. There is a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
And how do we get to that point? There is a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. It's because when that personal direction comes in, all of a sudden we can't see the direction of Yahweh. Go ahead.
He that labors for himself, for his mouth craves it of him. An ungodly man digs up evil, and in his lips there is as a burning fire. A froward man sows strife, and a whisperer separates chief friends. A violent man enticeth his neighbor, and leads him into the way that is not good. He shuts his eyes to devise froward things. Moving his lips, he brings evil to pass. The hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness.
And a hoary head is a gray-headed individual. So this is an aged individual. An aged individual is a crown of glory, a hoary head. This is a gray-headed individual. And the first thing we want to do is get those, get that rinse, so we can rinse that gray right out of there. Oh, so you trying to take away the sign of wisdom? Yeah, I don't want to look wise. I don't want to look old and smart. I want to look young and sexy. Right. So let me wash all that out. Go ahead.
He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that rules his spirit than he that takes a city. The lot is cast into the lap, but the whole disposing thereof is of Yahweh.
The lot is cast into the lap. So whatever comes about is going to come about. But the whole disposing thereof, meaning the end of a thing, is of Yahweh. So a lot of times we're trying to figure out the end at the beginning. And you can't figure out the end at the beginning. There's certain things that we're already trying to figure out, and Yahweh hasn't given his direction at this point. But we're trying to figure out where the end is before we take step number one. That don't work. This is why it was accounted unto to Abraham for righteousness for believing. You know how difficult it is to say, go to a land which I shall tell you of? I mean, just start moving. Okay, so where are we going? I'll tell you when you get there. It takes belief on a whole nother level to do some things like that. And believe you me, the trials and tribulations that we're going to encounter, we're going to need the Spirit for those things. Because as a captive, we have trusted this government setup. We have trusted all of these things. When those things erode, you have to consider that the whole basis for everything that we know as a community is about to be no more. And other people see it. Whenever you got, the president showing more honor to the biggest adversarial nation than his own so-called nation and even people of his own party, there's a serious issue. But these are the things that America has done to every other nation. They've gone into all of the countries, messed up their election system, have gone in to infiltrate, put in whoever they want in power. But for the first time, we know of a fact that this has now happened to her. She was too strong for any of that to have happened before. If you don't see the writing on the wall now, you just can't see. This was never able and was never supposed to happen to her. She does that to everybody else. Nobody gets to do it to her. Well, not only has it been done, but now he on his way to sit down in the house that he has stolen for himself. Pay attention, Israel. A lot of things are changing. Understand that Yahweh is not just the Elohim of Israel. He is the ruler and the true owner of this whole earth. So he's going to make all the kings do whatever he has them to do to bring about what he needs to happen for the children of Israel. And we like to limit our Elohim and believe that he's just the leader of our little congregation. Oh no, our God is much bigger than that. He's leading people that don't even know his name or know who he is. They won't even know why they invade. They'll just feel this burning in their heart that they need to go and invade these people, not knowing that Yahweh made them do it. Because it's time for the children of Israel to be restored in their rightful place. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.